Hey there friends, my name's Eric, or you can call me Opus. This is my first video. I figured I would start off with a little bit about how I got started on this whole miniature journey thing. When I was about 8 years old or so, my family had a get together, and my older cousin Pat showed up, and he had with him this beautiful book. Turned out it was the Wood Elf Army book for Warhammer Fantasy Battles, 4th edition. I followed him around looking at this book, and I kind of looking over his shoulder. I said, wow, that looks amazing, in my little 8-year-old voice. Eventually I got the courage and I was like, hey Pat, can I take a look at that book? He said to me, sure Eric, but it's not really for little kids. You know, this is for big kids. You might not quite understand it. From that day onwards, I swore, come hell or high water, I would paint little woodland elves like the big kids do. I would paint with such skill and ferocity that Patrick the Big would look up to me from atop my mountain of painted plastic and empty sprues in such amazement at my artistry. I would be a king among kids, ruling over a land of brutish orcs and stout dwarves. I'm really sorry about that. After looking over the book for some time, I was amazed at this world of painted toys that I had never seen before. Up until then, my life was just absorbed by teenage turtles, Doug getting dunked on by Patty Mayonnaise, and Sonic running around collecting rings and saving woodland critters from the Riddler. So as any good kid would do, I proceeded to not shut up about Warhammer until at my next birthday, my grandfather actually bought me my first Warhammer miniatures, a High Elf command group. These were miniatures that I had never seen before, and they were kind of unexpected. They were bland, metal, they weren't attached to their bases, just completely unpainted and uninteresting. But I was smiling so much that the grin just hurt my face. It was amazing. It was a great feeling. I'm not even sure I got around to painting those or even gluing them to their bases. I'm pretty sure at 8 years old, I wasn't trusted to not glue my own hands to my face like an idiot, which I am. I still can't be trusted with it. A few months or so went by, and I must not have shut up about Warhammer still, because my father offered to take me on a trip to London, Ontario, to the Games Workshop there. And it was one of the best trips of my life. I was a kid, I was so ecstatic to just go and check out this world of Warhammer. So we drove up there. It was about maybe an hour and a half or so from where we lived at the time. When we got there, the place was much smaller than I expected. This Games Workshop has grown since then, but it's still quite small. And I remember just looking around the store for a while and eventually coming upon the coolest miniature I'd seen yet. It was this big orc with a giant two-handed axe, which he was holding in one hand, and the other hand he was holding the severed head of some helmeted human. I found out that was Grimgor Ironhide, one of the coolest orcs out there, period. I don't care what you say. I eventually went on to paint that orc with all the gusto I could muster. And a year or two later, I think I gave it a repaint and left it at that. And it's pretty much a good example of where I first started with my painting journey. So after stopping at this first lackluster Games Workshop, my dad was like, well, Eric, do you want to go to another Games Workshop? I was like, hell yeah. So we jumped back in the car and we drove out to Burlington, I believe, Burlington, Ontario, which was probably another 2 hours or so. And when we got there, this place was way bigger. There was cool miniatures lying wall to wall. There's painted stuff in the cabinets. It was packed full of people painting miniatures, playing the game. It was amazing. My little mind just could not contain itself. And it turned out we arrived on the perfect day because they were having a raffle. And I don't know what it was for. I think it was like a store anniversary or something. But anyways, so we were like, throw our hat into the ring. So we entered the raffle and looking around the store for a while and like checking out all the different things I might want in the store, which turns out is everything in the store. So we're looking around and I'm having a blast, and it comes time to pull the raffle. And lo and behold, my name got pulled. amazing. I lost my mind. I'm sure I screamed, maybe not. Maybe I was just too excited to scream. I could pick any battalion box I wanted. So I ran around and I'm checking them all out, and immediately I was like, bam, that's the one I want. I picked up the 1996 Orcs and Goblins Battalion to go perfectly with my new badass giant orc with his double-handed axe, Grimgor Ironhide. Next couple of years went by, and I have a few fond memories that kind of pop up. One of them is hanging out in our basement with my mother, and she painted a miniature with me. God bless her soul, because I'm pretty sure she had very little interest in it, and I was probably just overly excited. But it was a great time. I remember painting a miniature with my father, painting an Eldar miniature. That was awesome. I remember painting my first orc bannerman with this super spooky face on it at another family get-together. I brought it with. I was showing it off to everybody, and everybody's like, ooh, great job, Eric, even though I know it was terrible. But to me, I was like, wow, yeah, I did do a good job, didn't I? Ooh. It was amazing. And then I found out that my cousins, they had a family friend, and they had a kid that was my age. His name was Colin. So we used to go to cottages together, like every year, with these cousins and my aunt and uncle. And they brought along the Hammonds, these people. So they brought their kid, Colin. And him and I got to know each other, and we became friends, and found out he played Warhammer. And we just we spent our days just fishing, going out on the boat, and just talking about Warhammer. I'd go on and on about my orcs and goblins. He'd go on about his Skaven, his little crazy rat men, and their ability to basically take over the entire world if it wasn't for their own infighting and bickering and usurping of one another. It was awesome. He introduced me to Warhammer 40K. There's a whole other world I had not even dipped my toes into at that point. It was just awesome to have somebody that also knew about Warhammer that I could talk to. It was just really cool. I remember my father surprised me one year with tickets to Games Day 2001, I believe. Pretty sure it was in Toronto. It's Canada, Ontario. Like, everything happens in Toronto. So we get there, and I was just blown away. It was insane. It was the year of the Tau release. They had this big display table with huge sci-fi buildings, and these little alien anime inspired dudes with their guns, and they're just picking off I think Tyranids or something, and it led into another table that was full of Imperial Guard Catachans hiding in the jungles with their guerrilla warfare tactics, and I think they were also fighting Tyranids. It was just amazing. They had 20-foot long tables just surrounded by people playing massive games of Warhammer. Inquisitor had come out with their 52mm models, which I thought were just so cool. Sadly, that game did not last, even though it was amazing in my opinion. But I love RPGs, so that's a whole other thing I could go into. But that was just one of the best days ever. I think I got this little keychain little metal keychain orc head that I painted up, which was kind of stupid because you put it on a keychain and it just gets all chipped up and everything. But just so cool. One of the best days ever. I thank my dad for that. Over the next 20 years ago, I'd fall into and out of the hobby as things in my life kind of happened. I moved from city to city, from apartment to province and back, leaving little bits of my hobby behind as I can only take so much with me. Models would be purchased, assembled, painted, and sold to make room for more, or to make room for clothing that I could fit in my suitcase. Eventually I began to settle and my collection grew. I met my wonderful wife, and she and I bought a house and had a child, and we've been staying in this home for a year and a half now, and it's slowly accumulating more and more plastic. It's a place where the horde could grow once again. Throughout the isolation of the plague times, my focus went more and more onto the painting side of the hobby and less on the gaming side. It was something I could do for myself that was entertaining. It kind of took my mind away from things, and it was very rewarding. I started paying more attention to the content creators out there like Trapped Under Plastic, Lila Mev, Goobertown Hobbies, Miniac, Ninja, and all those folks. Just amazing and inspiring people. I've learned a lot from them. It felt more and more throughout this period of isolation that there were others like me out there that enjoyed the hobby and wanted to learn from each other, and were kind of a community. And it was more about trying to just learn and get better and increase your skills, and less about, I'm going to paint my 4 demands so I can play the game, which is totally fine because I've done that like so much. You know, I like to play the games and I like to have painted models. Totally awesome. But the painting side and the community around that and how helpful they are is just amazing. And that's kind of why I wanted to create this channel. I want to share what I've learned with others, and I want to learn from them. I want to create a platform where people can collaborate and just get better from one another. So if you stick around for the ride, I would be extremely appreciative, especially if you hit the like button. That would help me a lot. If you're as daring to hit the subscribe button, I would be humbled. And remember, wherever you are in your hobby journey, there's always going to be more to learn, and you're always going to be finding ways to improve. So until next time, paint today for a more colorful tomorrow. Thanks.